Hello, 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 diamonds. I am so excited to be here. Today, I have one of my favorite people with me, Lisa Hatlestad, master coach, certified Lisa Hatlestad. And I think most of you know by now that Lisa and I kind of came together this year with other team members, and we created the Advanced Certification in Women's Sexual Intimacy, which has been fabulous. We just finished the last month, we just finished like our first cohort. And that experience, I have to say, changed me as a coach, changed me as a teacher, a mentor, changed me in so many ways, and just solidified my belief that this work is needed and very necessary, and that we need to make conversations about women's sexual intimacy just a normal, common type of thing that we talk about all the time, and not something that's just focused for just sex coaches, sexual counselors, and sex therapists. Now, I'm not saying that we should have them substitute like somebody that's just taken a 12-week course, substitute somebody that's had years and years of experience and training. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we need to kind of open the conversation more broad and to bring in more people that can, whatever type of coaching or healthcare work that they're doing, that this can be a normal part of the conversation. Just a normal, like asking women, how's sex going for you? What kind of concerns do you have? Do you have any issues going on? Because right now it's still taboo. It amazes me how sex is used to sell so much in our society, and at the same time, just having a normal conversation about it and how people are doing it in that area it's not something that we commonly talk about. But Lisa and I are on a mission to change that. So welcome, Lisa. I just already started on my rant.
That's okay. I know by now just to stand back and let you do your thing, because your thing is always wonderful and really needs to be heard, Sonia. So like, what can be better than just letting you shine where you shine and with what you're passionate about? And I mean, amen to everything you said. And I'm also so passionate about it. And it really kind of blows my mind now to think that as little as just a couple of years ago, I never thought, and I think this is really common for coaches and other practitioners that work with mental health. I just didn't think to include intimacy into the kind of wheel of life that coaches, integrate into their work with all of their clients. It always felt to me like intimacy, I never thought of it. I never said, oh, intimacy doesn't belong in here. It just never came up in my thinking about this. And I think that that's so telling. And that for me is a huge reason why this training has been so special to me and so meaningful to be a part of, creating curriculum and teaching it with you around your work in women's sexual intimacy. It's just so important. And like you, going through the first iteration of it with our wonderful students, with the wonderful coaches that were part of it, it changed my life and a lot of my views. And I really did see how needed and how essential this is.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I knew what I wanted to create when I started this. And then reaching out to you and saying, hey, Lisa, would you consider doing a coach's training program with me on sexual intimacy? Like, I don't think we really had an idea of what we were creating, right? I don't think we really realized this mission and this impact that we had. And I just think of the different people that were in the course, right? We had some doctors in the course. We had a minister in the course. We had like a person that works with and like an occupational therapist in the course. We had relationship coaches in the course. We have women that deal with domestic abuse. Like there's so many different scenarios, people that were in the course. We have somebody that does coaching, life coaching just in general, and specifically handles like sexual intimacy coaching in different programs. So it was interesting to see all these women come together
Mhm.
take the information, process it in the way that they needed for their organization or the way that they were going to use it. And it's interesting when you have a set of information and it gets transformed into something
Mhm.
different, like a metamorphosis occurred.
Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly like I was telling somebody who asked me how it went, and I said it was magical. And I thought, what do I mean by that? But I just mean like you totally put your finger on it. We were doing it and it started taking on a shape of its own. Or, I mean, I remember talking about, well, how are we going to talk about this to people? How are we going to talk about this to coaches? And we just started talking, and it was like, I don't know, the meaningfulness and the importance of it just seemed to build itself around that. Because when we started realizing, my God, it's true. Nobody's talking about women's sexual intimacy in the coaching world unless it's within specific sex coaching containers or sex coaching trainings. And how many women, if you're a woman, doesn't matter if you're partnered or not, we all have intimacy issues. And how little, like, I think just how little availability it can feel like to be for a safe, non-judgmental, informed place to turn when nobody is talking about it. And yeah.
Exactly. Wow. It just kind of blew my mind, the experience that we had. And it wasn't really what I had planned. I thought that this was a good idea. Realize how necessary it really was and how it would take on a life of its own. And now I'm talking about like the breakdown of the program, right? Like it was a 12-week program and we had what we called the intensive weekend, right? So we started on a Friday night, kind of like break the ice and get people to know each other. And then all day Saturday was about the individual woman's like sexual intimacy. Like the coaches were looking at their own, because we had the belief and the concept that we need to be able to address and identify our own biases. We need to have the time to look at sexual intimacy in our life and what sexuality means to us, what the coach on a personal level, before they can do this work with other people. And so like all of Saturday was on focusing on like the personal aspects of what sexuality, what your first thoughts were, what were you originally told in your family of origin, what it looks like now for you, what would you like it to be in the future. And then on Sunday, we kind of transitioned over to like changing this, shifting the focus to clients. But I have to say that like participants again and again and again said how important that intensive weekend was.
Mm-hmm. It was so important to me because I had I knew what we were doing. We had the schedule and we had talked about how we were going to teach it, but you just don't know how things are going to go until you get in the actual room with other live human beings. And earlier, Sonia, you were talking about the great variety of people that came to this first round of ACWSI of the advanced certification, the training. And what blew my mind was like some of them, like the relationship coach, of course, intimacy was coming up in her sessions. And there was a coach who, like you said, worked within another membership where she addressed a lot of sex coaching questions. And they had growth in the program, and even right from the start, even the intensive. And I think what worked about the intensive was that we designed the whole thing to be a safe container, just like we were wanting to teach, help coaches create for their clients. And so even though some women had done iterations possibly of this work before, to be live with teachers and one another in a container that was just open, accepting, nobody was forced to share or anything, allowed them to speak to really see some of their biases and maybe speak to things that they hadn't before. And I think that that had a profound impact on them as coaches as to what they could create for their clients. And it certainly had a profound impact on me.
100%. I think it had so much of an impact uh, on us and on the participants as well, that it made us realize that this is something that we need to bring to more women, even women that don't necessarily want to be coaches or work in that realm, but just to be able to do the intensive, just like the intensive weekend, and
Yeah.
have like a safe container to explore their sexuality relatively quickly. Because I do have my Own Your Sexuality Now program, and that's a 12-week course. But this was over one weekend, and we got a lot accomplished just looking at our own sexuality. And I'm a sex coach, but I was right in there doing the work, right? It wasn't so looking and exploring my own sexuality and where I'm at this point and where I want it to be in the future. Like that work was just foundational and fantastic and amazing, definitely.
It really was. And there's something about like uncovering your biases isn't so that you can see where you've been quote unquote wrong about the world or something. Like the transformation takes place inside for the coach right away. Like I have several pages that I wrote down things after the intensive that just came up for me listening to other people talk. But all of these things that we as women, and, you know, Sonia, with you as a physician and a sex coach, right? And you're still discovering things. And there's something about seeing how things that we've always believed so deeply that they're just true to us, and how we're operating with those beliefs without even knowing it. And every time we can uncover something new, we liberate ourselves sexually and in other ways as well. And I mean, what a beautiful thing. I think that the coaches that do this work, or the practitioners in general that do this work, are going to get personal liberation, personal freedom from some things they didn't know were there, and then be able to also, you know, interact with their clients from that new freedom and that new understanding. What a beautiful gift.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, because like I have to see like the people, the participants at the beginning of this course and at the end of this course. And there was like a liberation, a freedom, a lightness about them by the end. There was like a comfort level talking around sex and sexual intimacy and talking to other people. Like there's one person that's relatively came from a conservative background, and by the end of it she was talking to women, not on the street, but she would just check in with people and say, hey, how's this sexual intimacy in your life going? How's that? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you making sure that you have pleasure in your life? Are you connected to your body? Those type of questions, where there's such a level of comfort with herself that had to be established first. And then after that, like a level of really caring about other people and meeting them where they're at, and wanting to have these conversations to normalize sexual intimacy is just a normal part that we get to experience and have in our lives.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, in my own client intake paperwork, I now have questions about sexual intimacy, just to check in. And I think like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have done that, because what if they had an issue? And what if I couldn't do anything or didn't know enough, to help them? That's the thing. And so I know listeners might be curious, like, how does 12 weeks make such a big difference? And what I'm thinking about right now, Sonia, is we have gotten a lot of feedback from this round's students. The biggest piece of feedback we've gotten, probably from every single coach in there, or almost every single practitioner in there, is this version of, I just wasn't comfortable talking about intimacy because I was afraid I wasn't going to know enough to help the client.
Yeah.
And part of our mission in the course was to, of course, get coaches comfortable even talking about intimacy without going inward and thinking things like, oh, you know, who am I to do this? My own life has problems, you know, these things that all practitioners do, that kind of imposter, but also thinking that you have to know the answer to everything, and also feeling very alone. Like, what if something comes up and I have no one to turn to? And so, you know, one part of our mission that I appreciated so deeply, and I know the students did too, was helping students feel resourced and available and competent at having these conversations, and not letting the fact, who do you know everything about sex?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at
Right. Like, not letting the fact that we can't possibly know the answer to everything be an impediment to starting a conversation.
And I would challenge like that. Our society says like you can't coach on sexual intimacy unless you have an incredible sex life. I
Mhm.
find that the people that have an incredible sex life haven't really had a lot of challenges, right? And so they may not necessarily know how to overcome different thoughts. You know, they may have had some challenges, and there may be some challenges in the future. But if sex has been relatively easy for you, and you have like a matched libido with your partner and blah 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 blah, you haven't had that time where you had, like, people know that I was in a relationship that was sexless for 10 years, right? There's a lot of stuff that was going on in my mind. When I
Mhm.
coach my clients, I know what they're going through, right? So, and I come from a place where my libido is more on the responsive side, right? So, and all of those things get to be normalized and common, and not necessarily a problem where it's like you're broken and there's something going on, right? So, when we have this belief that we have to be perfect in order to do this work, I think we're missing the point that in the flaw is the, if you want to call it a flaw, is like the jewel, is what you need is there, and it can only be forged through the fire type of thing, right? So we,
Oh, sorry about that.
oh yeah, no, you know me, I could go on and on, but we don't have to be perfect in order to be doing this sexual intimacy work, because like we experience issues, and that's okay.
Mhm. So true, and such a great point, because I think having had over the last year or so intimacy, you know, clients of my own, coaching clients that I've worked with on intimacy issues, I think the feeling of isolation, the feeling like I'm the only one that has this problem. How do I know that? Who else is talking about it? You don't see what, you know, it's just like so quiet. And so that feeling of isolation, and that we're broken and we're the only ones. And unfortunately, even if we bring issues sometimes to healthcare providers, they may, you know, be incredibly competent healthcare providers and still not have the language or the scope to be able to have a conversation where the patient can feel totally like not judged, seen, and heard. And so, yeah, when, like, if all of us had to be perfect or had to have overcome every single obstacle before we could help others with it, then there'd literally be nobody helping anybody, I think.
Exactly. That's so well said, and just so important as to understand that like you get to have whatever experience you have, and you can still make a difference in people's lives. And I love how you talk about the isolation, because I think that that's something that I want to eradicate. Really, if I could put an end to it, I think that that in some ways um, is the hardest part of this all.
Mhm.
I remember when I was first deciding on when I started this work in 2019, one of the key components to it, I was on this mission to end the emotional pain and isolation associated with sexual difficulty, because you're right, people were not talking about it. and didn't have any place to go. And I spent a number of years in that sexless marriage thinking there's no place for me to turn. There's no one for me to talk to about this. And that fuels my work, this work that we do, is because I don't want it to just be 5 people that you can talk to about it. I want there to be 500 people that you could talk to about this, and not stay in this place of shame. So much of it is the isolation is, comes from a place of shame and not being able to say what's going on. But if we have more people that's involved in this work, whatever kind of coaches or healthcare providers you are, like if you can get more knowledge around women's sexual intimacy, it helps everybody. Somebody might be coming to you for like a budget or something like that. You might be a money coach, but at the same time, they may not have, you might start talking to them about relationships as it relates to like money and between partners and things like that. And you're working on this aspect of things, but you don't know that they haven't really connected or communicated, right? And so you're wondering why this work is not going forward around the money issue, but there's a component that you're not aware of, which is the sexual intimacy and the lack of communication that's happening inside and outside of the bedroom, right? And so, yes, maybe you can deal with that, the money thing, but what if you felt comfortable to say, hey, is there anything else going on? How's the intimacy in your relationship? How's that going? And you don't have to know all the answers, but you can just say, that can impact your communication, which can impact like the financial side of things as well.
Oh, amen. Like, I have had, countless clients who have, and I've experienced this myself in different parts of my life, different eras of my married life, because I've been married for 35 years. And you not only keep, you sometimes re-experience things in new ways, but this like mismatches in libido or sexual desire, where then resentment can build. And that resentment doesn't just stay in the bedroom around sex. It grows and grows. And when nobody's talking about it, I think men, at least for the most part, have the reassurance kind of embedded with them that other men may be experiencing erectile dysfunction thanks to all of the, like little blue pill commercials or whatever that we see. Like they're getting that message, but we as women don't get that message. Like, as far as I can tell, I just don't see a whole lot of sexual health, sexual pleasure things related to women, except for their happy faces when their man finally gets the right pill for erectile dysfunction.
But if we could really see their face, which is, oh, damn, now I have to deal with sexual intimacy. We haven't had sexual intimacy for years. I've been blaming myself this whole time about their erectile dysfunction. We haven't been able to talk about it because my partner's in a place of shame. I'm in a place of shame. Suddenly we have this blue pill and it's time to get it on. And I don't even know what to do here. Like, I've been telling and blaming myself for so long with this that I don't know where to take this. And I don't know how to process these thoughts and feelings that I have. I don't know who to talk to about this. And suddenly here he comes with an erection and I'm supposed to be like ready to go. Well, and we haven't even started talking about GSM, genital urinary syndrome, menopause, because nobody talks about it, right? So there's shame upon shame upon shame, and isolation upon isolation upon isolation, and silence upon silence upon silence. And here he comes with a little blue pill and an erection. Right?
Okay, this is like a big mic drop right here, because it's totally true. And this is the thing. We're laughing, but it is also true. And even though it's funny to talk about and ironic to talk about, it is a true problem and a true pain, I think, for many women. And I think as, coaches and other practitioners that work on a pretty much daily basis and regular basis for an extended period of time with other women, like our openness and willingness to talk about it, like just being open, being comfortable enough with it where you're even willing to initiate a conversation, if not, if your client doesn't bring it up, we can in so many different ways. That is a conversation that may never, ever, ever be had if we don't open it up.
If we don't open it up. It's so true, right? Maybe instead of 10 years in a sexless relationship, maybe it might have been in 5 years. If like I had life coaches and I had healthcare providers, if somebody had said to me, hey, anything going on with the sexual intimacy that you want to talk about? How's your pleasure? Are you getting the pleasure that you need? How's your connection with your body, with yourself, with your partner? Just want to check on those things. Anything you want to talk about? Then I might have said, I'm not really connected with my partner and I feel like there's something wrong with me. And I feel like, I'm just perpetually being rejected. I might have said something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I can share too, Sonia, and I know that I've shared this with you because it kind of came around because of my conversations with you, because at one time I was coaching you for something not intimacy related, but you were so open with your sexuality and what was going on. I was like, wow, man, I'm glad she feels so confident because I'm not feeling confident at all about talking about this. I'm open to it. But I think your confidence in just who you are, and over time we've become friends, made it feel safe enough for me to start talking about, like, you know what, I'm going through menopause and sex hurts now. And I actually went to my OB-GYN and she sent me home with this hormonal cream and it isn't helping. And I don't know what's happening. And, obviously you're a medical doctor, but you didn't give me, what you helped me do when you opened it up for me to talk about and then reflected back to me that I can pursue this, that I don't have to just accept that 1 or 2 visits to my OB who may not have the specific knowledge or the specific whatever in this case to help me with a specific problem. And I think having those kinds of conversations with our coaches, like we're not solving medical problems for them, but our coaches, I mean, our clients, we're not solving medical problems for them, but we may be the only advocate, like the only support they have in advocating for themselves and their sexual health and their sexual pleasure.
100%, 100%. And this is why we do this work. Because like just you and I coming together with that one thought that we're going to create this advanced certification in women's sexual intimacy. And it impacted our first cohort of women that came together and all their clients. And I find with just the work that I do in general as a sex coach is once you start the conversation with a woman, and she feels comfortable talking about sexuality, she starts talking to other women. And it's like this ripple effect. So whether it's impacting the coaches and the healthcare providers that we trained, their clients and patients, or it's like their friends and family, like it becomes just this wider net that just keeps expanding to the point where like people are like, just at a personal level, we had somebody in the training that's like, yeah, I was talking to my doctor, my daughters about this. And my daughters were like, Mom, can we talk to you about this? But like her daughters are in their 40s now, right? And this is like, she gets to start talking. They're like, I can't believe my mom is talking to me about this. But yes, and then they get to talk to their daughters and their friends, and she was even saying that her daughter's friends are starting to talk to her now, right? So
Wow.
it just has this effect that it's just really amazing. And this is why we do this work. This is why you and I are committed to doing this work. And this is why we're having the conversation, because we're going to be starting our next round of advanced certification in women's sexual intimacy that we affectionately call ACWSI. If you ever hear us say ACWSI, it's for the advanced certification in women's sexual intimacy. And our next cohort is going to start on September 29th. And we're pretty excited about that. And so for everybody listening to this call, whether you're a coach or a healthcare provider or not, if you are a coach or a healthcare provider, come and join us in the next cohort. If you are, just listening to this and you're not a coach or a healthcare provider, realize that we are going to be doing the intensives as well. And so just separate from doing the training, we're going to just start doing the intensives for women, just so that they will have that time where they get to like come together for a weekend and just work on this work, and do this for themselves. And also, you can always come into the Lit Click Club anytime that you want to and get the coaching you want, but in a more intimate type of setting, where we're going to do it over like a weekend. We will be doing more intensive as well. So this is just the beginning for us, Lisa. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I agree. And I got goosebumps when you said it because I totally agree. And it is a ripple effect. And, I know, Sonia, that both you and I care so much about women getting the help they need for anything they need help with from whatever resource. But when it comes to sexual intimacy, and I think like just flipping pleasure, we live in a culture where pleasure just feels like, oh, we either have to earn it or we can only have it in between, doing things for other people if there's time. And when I think about how, our bodies are the conduit for pleasure, we can't feel pleasure in our brain, in our heads. It has to come through our body, and how our body needs pleasure and is there for pleasure. This work is just so deep and so wide and so important to me. So yes, I am super excited for the next ACWSI cohort to start.
Yeah, and then just some of the logistical things. We ended up doing it during the day and the evening, right? So we had options because some people could come to the daytime sessions and some people could come to the evening sessions. And we wanted the availability to be there for everybody. So we had, and we'll continue to have like a noon session or somewhere an afternoon session and also an evening session. Some people chose to go to both sessions because depending on the people that were there was a different lively conversation going on, right? So that was kind of a fun experience to see people coming to the class twice in 1 week. And then we also have some practicum and office hours. And then we also had guest people come and talk to us as well. So it was a lot of fun for us. And it was just an honor leading that first cohort. And we will be having people from that cohort on the podcast to talk about their experience and how they're going to use this information. But we wanted to give you the heads up that the next cohort is going to start September 29th, and also that there's a payment plan, because I think that everybody utilized, or just about everybody utilized, the payment plan. And we're very much into making sure that people have access to this. And we're also pretty open. It's $5,000, and you can do a payment plan on that. You can just reach out to us, or you can pay it all at once, right? But we just want to make sure that you're aware, when the dates start. And we're going to talk more about when we're going to just do the intensive weekend and make sure that we have that. And so it's just so good to be able to provide a service to so many different women, and to know that we're making a difference in this world. And to all my diamonds listening, like, I want you to know that you are heard and you are seen. And we are on a mission to make a difference for you and for the women generations that come before us and after us, right? Because I'm really into women having sexual intimacy and a beautiful sexual relationship with themselves well into their 90s and 100s. And I always love and admire the baby boomers that are slightly ahead of me because I feel like they revolutionized the world, right? And to honor them and to be there for them as well, and also the generations that came after us, just so that they know that, hey, you get to have your sexuality, you get to enjoy yourself. So this work we're going to continue to do, and we have so much fun doing it. And we are welcoming you and inviting you to join ACWSI or the Lit Click Club, and to watch out for the intensive as well as we get that underway. And we'll be talking to other people that have gone through the program over the next couple of weeks. And as usual, I am talking up a storm. Lisa. That's what I love about Lisa.
And I'm
she
just
called
like,
her own with me.
Yes. I was just agreeing with everything you were saying. No, that's exactly it. And I think, one thing I love about you, Sonia, is just like your drive to put this together to create ACWSI was partially or a lot built on your experience in your other groups with your diamonds, like listening to them, hearing them, knowing what they need, and knowing that you can't do it by yourself. A handful of coaches just can't do this. We need coaches. We don't need coaches to change their niche or become, straight out sex coaches. That's great if you want to, but when we're all open to the topic of intimacy coming up in our coaching, this is what gets it done. So yes, and I think the other thing I wanted to say, and I'll just talk about it briefly, because when we talk to the students, I think this will come out. The environment that was created in ACWSI was super special. It was not formal. We definitely had a curriculum. We knew what we were doing, but it was really important to both of us that students take themselves through the process as, a really important person themselves first, before they even started thinking about how to apply it to clients. So it was really well balanced, and I think went even deeper through that. And also, I think we both strove really hard to make our classrooms a safe and open space where anything could be said or asked. So I know how it feels to come into a new class or container or group coaching thing, that, a new environment. And I just, from my coaching side, we hear and see that too. And we very much, Sonia several times just said, I want this to be different. I want this to be a space where people feel safe and seen. And that is a goal. And I think we did a damn good job, and we'll continue.
I think we did a damn good job too. And I think that came from, like, just on a personal level, my experience of going into many different coaching and educational containers where I always felt different, either because my race or my gender or my neurodivergent brain or whatever it is. Like, I always felt like I had to mask who I was, and I had to show up a certain way to be marginally accepted. And I just didn't want that for anybody. I wanted people to come and show up as themselves and have the autonomy to take control of their learning, how they learn, not where it had to be in a box and it had to be a specific way. And if you didn't follow this formula, then there's something wrong with you. So there needed to be space for diversity in all of its different forms, and to recognize that lends itself to like a beautiful, unique experience for each person in the group.
Yes, I agree. And I think when practitioners have they get to be their full human selves in a training or in a learning environment, we're able then to bring our full human selves to our own client work as well. There's no guardedness or, that like, oh, I'm not good enough, I don't have this down, circling back just to that perfectionistic aspect that sometimes comes into our work. So yeah, it's been so good, and I just can't wait for this next round.
It's going to be spectacular. I'm so looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to meeting all of you who come to join ACWSI, just getting to know you more, and knowing your beautiful, like, mystical, magical, like, powers and gifts, and how you're going to use this work and this information to make a difference in your community, both personal community and the community that you work in. So, any last words, Lisa?
My last words are just thank you, Sonia, for bringing me on this journey with you. It's been one of the most satisfying in my professional career. And if listening to this podcast, some questions are coming up, or you're wondering, is this right for me? Please be sure to, reach out to Sonia about it. Like, we're here to answer all of your questions, and we hope to see your faces in Awesome.
100%. And we're going to have in the show notes where you can click on the link to get on the wait list so that you have all the information as ACWSI as soon as all the dates are up and in. But September 29th, this is when we're going to be starting. And we'll be talking more about this. Thank you so much for joining us. It was so good having you, Lisa, and so good having you, Diamonds, here to talk about all this.
Thanks, Sonia.